Okay guys, so a lot of people have always been asking me, how do I know which level will confirm? How do I know where price will eventually go? Now, no one will know whether or not a specific level will hold. That's just the reality of the market. The market can easily just kind of do whatever it needs to do. But again, this is why we kind of have our trade plans to kind of keep us disciplined, to keep us having our understanding that no matter what happens, right, we're going to just follow our plan, and then we're going to have our risk management protocols in play, and then we'll be able to kind of extract profits from the market just following our game plan. Now, the reality is this. The way I personally use it is this. If I get a confirmed reactionary block during the specific kill zone timings, then I will anticipate the level will hold and look for the market to trade into next objective. So here's a perfect illustration, and I've shown this example before, but this was just a really good example. And again, if you guys were not in my Telegram, you could check on June 15th of me calling the market lower. This was on FOMC day. And again, this is why I like to use examples of things that I personally called, because it's not hindsight. This is the exact same trade that I called in the Telegram chat. So as you guys know, I like to go on the daily framework and then work my way down to the 1 hour. But the 1 hour, we have our key level right here. So now that we have our key level on the 1 hour time frame, I'm going to essentially start to go down to the 30 and 15 minute. Personally, the 15 minute for me is a little bit more, is a little bit better, because again, you can see a little bit more candles. Let me go back to the 15 and put this right here. So now we know that we're at this H1 S&D flip, right? Because the market had this push up, the market didn't even respect this, and the market created an imbalance. So now we have our criteria of a supply demand flip. Now, once I go down to the 15-minute time frame, I want to see, okay, does the market create some sort of bearish order block off of this level? And we see that the market created a bearish order block right here with a imbalance. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys this. Perfect. And this was actually formed right in the heart of the New York session. So if I go and put the session times, this was right around 8:30. So again, I'm going to talk about it more in the golden hour setup, but this was pretty much a golden hour, because right in between the 8 to 9 o'clock, we see our bearish order block that forms on the 15-minute with an imbalance. Now, the key thing is this, right? We need to have, as I always talked about, we need to have a very clear objective. And these relative equal lows right here, where the Friday lows right there, and this was around like London close right before the session changeover, we had very clean liquidity pools are resting. Also, the market kind of took out liquidity from the upside. So I know that the market is very likely to run this out, because is it really likely to go back up and clean out this high? No, because the easier liquidity grab would be to the downside. Now, this is why I always say, and if you guys are in my Telegram, you'll know that I always say, like, I don't want to see a specific level traded to first before the retest. So if I want to look for a retest, I don't want this level to be cleared out, because this is my reference point. Because if it clears this out, right, the market could accumulate orders and then bounce. Now we actually might reach up into a little bit of a higher premium level. So we have our M15 bearish order block that forms. We have our imbalance, and now we have, I would consider this my reactionary block. Now, again, the reason it's a reactionary block is because it's an order block that forms off of a higher time frame level. So it formed off of the H1 supply and demand flip, and it created the imbalance. So now when you draw it out, that's going to be your level there. And some people, like some people, they'll enter on an imbalance like to the 50% mark. It's up to you. It doesn't really matter how you enter. And let me just put this as my intraday level, and I'm going to put this the higher time frame one. And I'm going to make this also just a higher time frame, just to make it perfect. Okay, so now I know that I have this area that I'm possibly going to sell, and I'm going to put my stop loss essentially right above that swing right there. Now, I know some people can be like, oh, what if it pushes up and it kind of takes out that high and then tanks? And like, that's the thing, guys. You'll never know exactly what the market's going to do. That's why you kind of have to just make sure that you're always on risk management, some type of protocol. And also, the beautiful thing about this, when you refine this level further, you also have a fair value gap on the M5. Now, some people want to refine this a little bit further. Like they'll be like, oh, I want to short right there. Again, I just want to short into this because I don't want to miss the move. If you're someone who wants to kind of reduce your stop loss as much as possible, you can use like a 50% of the range and then put an entry sell limit there. You can put the stop loss above the high and allow that to kind of gauge its way. But regardless, I'm going to go ahead and play the clip. On the M5, price comes up, you see the retest. That probably would have triggered us in short. and then the market starts to go down and we start to clean the liquidity pool. And if you go to the 5-minute time frame, we're going to go ahead and draw the fib from the high down to the low. We come in, price fills out that imbalance right there on the 5-minute, and we go to the M15. It hits around the 50% mark of that bearish order block, and then you start to see the market kind of go down, and we eventually clean out the liquidity pool to the downside, and we actually hit our extension targets. Now I'm going to use the same example in my go-to Fibonacci trade setup in that section. I'm going to use this exact example, but again, I'm going to use it within actual rules and context, so that way you guys can have it for your notes. But essentially, this is kind of how I utilize reactionary blocks to determine whether or not a specific level will hold. If I see my setup like an M15 bearish order block forming with an imbalance off a 1 hour level, I'm not focusing on this. I'm focusing on getting short here. Now, if you're someone who wants to kind of wait and you want to utilize the second impulse fade, like let's say you see a confirmation and then get in short, that's something that you can do as well. You guys can kind of play around with it and utilize it how you see fit and whatever makes you feel comfortable. But that's essentially how I personally determine how I'm going to anticipate, let's say, a level holding versus the market kind of streaming up to a different premium level.